Hey everybody, Jeff from Rage Select here, and wouldn't you know it, not but a day after I posted the video about Patreon's changes to their charges they were making, they rolled them back. So, you know, that I'm sorry if this is a lot of sounded fury for nothing. I kind of had a feeling that this might happen, especially on Monday. Anybody who watched this probably knows that I watch Jim Sterling's show a lot, and the fact that he was kind of like, hey, you need to roll this back or else I'm going to go find another place. I feel like there were enough large patrons that probably had an issue with this that Patreon realized that they couldn't just kind of muscle their way through it. So they are rolling back the changes that they put forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means in a second about y'all's epic response. I'm going to do a lot of flattery. But before anything else comes out, I'm just going to read straight up the statement that Jack Conte put out about this rollback. And so here we go. It says, creators and patrons, we've heard you loud and clear. We're not going to roll out the changes to our payment system that we announced last week. We still have to fix the problems that those changes addressed, but we're going to fix them in a different way. And we're going to work with you to come up with specifics as we should have done the first time around. Many of you have lost patrons and you lost income. No apology will make up for that, but nevertheless, I'm sorry. It's our core belief that you should own the relationships with your fans. These are your businesses and they are your fans. I spent hours and hours on the phone with creators, and so has the Patreon team. Your feedback has been crystal clear. And then we've got a few bullet points here. The new payment system disproportionately impacted $1 to $2 patrons. We have to build a better system for them. Aggregation is highly valued, and we underestimated that. Fundamentally, creators should own the business decisions with their fans, not Patreon. We overstepped our bounds and injected ourselves into that relationship against our core beliefs as a business. We recognize that we need to be better at involving you more deeply and earlier in these kinds of decisions and product changes. Additionally, we need to give you a more flexible product and platform to allow you to own the way you run your memberships. I know it will take a long time for us to earn back your trust, but we are utterly devoted to your success and getting you sustainable, reliable income for being a creator. We will work harder than ever to build you tools, functionality. We will work harder than ever to build you tools, functionality, and income, and our team won't rest until Patreon is making that happen. If you haven't sent us a note yet, or if you don't see your concerns listed above, please leave us feedback here. There's a link. Thanks for continuing to create. We are nothing without you. We know that, Jack. So, let's talk about it. There's not really a lot to talk about. This basically just means that they're going back to, I assume that they're going back to the old system. They don't actually talk numbers here, but since they just basically said we're rolling stuff back, I assume that they're going back to the previous model, which is where at the end of the month, creators are charged. Y'all are basically just on the hook for whatever it is that you are donating. So if you're donating $5, you're getting charged $5. If you're donating $1 per video for 20 videos, then you're $20. If you're donating $1 per video with unlimited, then it's $1 for every video that we put out. None of this service fee nonsense, and that y'all should be back into the easy way that we were before. Now, I am a little... I'm a little upset. I mean, okay, so I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. Let me start by saying I'm very glad that they've done this. I'd like to apologize. I mean, I know that nobody's going to really hold me accountable, but I really did want to make sure that this information got out to y'all, and so I made that video with the big red thumbnail and the clickbait title because I really needed everybody to look at this. I kind of had a feeling that this wasn't going to stand, but, you know... what happens, happens. So sorry that people have gone to all this trouble of changing stuff around. My little rule about making sure that your total donations and your donation per video are the same thing. You know, to be honest, if you want to leave it that way, that's fine. That'll be pretty much the same. Like, there's not really any big difference between donating $1 per video for 20 videos or donating $20 with a $20 cap. Like, those two are pretty much the same. At least they were previously. You know, if they had made this change, then it would have meant the people donating $1 per video were going to end up paying more. But I realized that a bunch of people have already gone, and I was sitting here yesterday watching just the email notifications for my Patreon were just like bing, 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 like all these people changing to what I was suggesting. So if you want to leave it that way, you could totally leave it that way. If you want to go back, you can go back. But at the end of the day, I hope that both of these videos have made it clear that I want people to feel comfortable with their support of what we're doing here. I don't want anybody to feel like they are uncomfortable. Once upon a time, I had somebody who sent me an email or a message on Patreon saying, "I can't support you anymore. I don't agree with you," and et cetera, et cetera. I never really got a clear answer about what that was. I actually sent them back an email saying, "Hey, look, I'm sorry to see you go, but I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable supporting Rage Select. If you want to support us, great. If you don't want to support us, that's fine." The fact that we've, as I constantly say, the fact that we are this far, that we've gotten this far, and that we have this many videos and this much support is already amazing. But I want everybody to feel comfortable. So let's talk a little bit about practicality. First up, I'm going to make that previous video unlisted, and I'm going to delete my tweet in the Facebook post. I'm going to leave it unlisted because you all had so many nice things to say that when I'm feeling down, I'll just pull that up and be like, "Yay, you like me." But I don't want to leave it up because I don't want to obfuscate things. So I'm going to leave this video up. So if you're watching this in the future and you're wondering what changes, don't worry about it. Patreon was going to make a weird change, and we needed to talk about it. I put up a video talking about it. It's since been, kind of taken out of the public thing. I'm not going to delete it, but I don't want to leave it as a public thing that people can watch. Second of all, I felt like there were a lot of people who kind of saw this change by Patreon as a like, oh, you're gonna fuck with Rage Select? Well, I'll show you. I'm gonna pledge. We actually got a bunch of new pledges out of this, which that's amazing. But I understand that as Rage Select is no longer being fucked with, if you made a pledge and you don't want that to be there anymore. I understand. It's fine. It is what it is. So, if people have to cut it back, I get that as well. Rage Select's in kind of a weird place. December is always a month where pledges go down, and this last year has been really strange because we had higher pledges than normal kind of mid-year and then kind of lower pledges over the last couple of months. And just about all businesses, I feel like you see kind of a roller coaster of during the summer when people have kind of a little bit more money and they want to, give to people that you see a little bit more. And then as it goes on later in the year, people get more, you've got Christmas presents to take care of and stuff like that. So that it always kind of goes down around the holidays, and that's fine. But that being said, if you made a post because you were like, yeah, nobody fucks with Rage Select, woo! And now that Rage Select's not being fucked with, you're like, all right, you guys, you don't need my pledge anymore. You're no longer being fucked with. I totally understand that. Somebody else actually emailed me to talk about how if you look at the Rage Select Patreon, that the dollar amount per video has kind of gone up quite a bit. I wanted to briefly talk about that because it's such a weird thing. It's always been a kind of a strange thing with Patreon. That number of the per Let's Play videos that's right now, like I'm looking at it right now, and I'm sure that it'll change, but it says $1,921 per Let's Play video. That number has never really been. That's a very optimistic number. That number, as near as I can tell, seems to be on day one, when everybody is basically donating the maximum amount. That's what it would be. So, like, if you have a person who's donating $1 per video with $1 per month, that first day, that number counts that. So it would be, let's say that you were donating $1 per video with a $5 cap. The first 5 videos would have that. So imagine just that number reflects the very first video. That would also reflect people who are making a $20 donation with a $20 cap. So day one, that $20 is added into that number that you're seeing. But day two, it's usually not. Like if I look at the individual posts on Rage Select, it tends to be a lot. It tends to go down quite a bit. So, just and also I'll just do the math here with my little trusty calculator. Is if we were making $1,921 per video for and we were doing, 26 videos a month, like 4 weeks, 6 videos, no weekends, that would be $49,946 every month. And to be and so if that was the case, if we were making $50,000 a month, you could bet your ass that we would have just like a shitload of production. I'd have a full staff. We'd have an office. We'd have things. That's not the amount of money that we're making per month. But you can bet your ass that if we were making $50,000 a month, that this would be a huge organization, because, you know, $50,000 a month times 12 months would mean that I was making a little bit shy of $600,000 a year. If that was the case, I think it's funny that you would see Rage selected. It would be like, suddenly we go from Taco Bell and Lone Stars that I'm talking about, just like, no, you know what really burns me is when you want your lobster thermidor, but then they overcook it and then they don't have the right bib. I prefer a linen bib as opposed to the plastic ones that they give me. And oh, when your champagne gets too warm, oh no, you all know what I'm talking about when your champagne gets too warm. Oh. You see how it would be a slightly different show. Or it would be the same show, except that I would be able to employ everybody. I'd be able to give Jason a full-time job. I don't even think he would want that. But, you know, if I had the ability to essentially staff people to do like full-time editing and full-time sound design, if we were able to expand the studio, buy a bunch of new equipment, you know, if we were making that amount of money, everything that you saw would be this just dramatically, you know, hugely produced videos. So always take that number with a grain of salt, because usually that first post ends up being whatever that number is, but then like the second post drops by like 40%, and then like, you know, another 20%, and it kind of evens out into just the people that are giving $1 per month. And in fact, after this change, I have no doubt that that's going to become an even more dramatic drop off, because if people leave their Patreons set up to give $20 a month with a $20 cap, if everybody has their Patreon set up the way that I said, like in theory, if everybody set up their Patreon the way that I suggested in the last video, we would make all the money we were going to make in a month on the very first post, and then $0 for every other post in the month. And in that way, it would actually be kind of interesting. It would be a little bit easier for me, because it's like I could just see exactly how much we're going to be making. But so anyway, yeah, but I'll be honest, there has also been an uptick. It's very difficult to know what exactly you're going to be making from Patreon until the charges come through at the end of the month. There have been months where I feel like their estimate of what I was going to be making was kind of wildly off, and then when you get to the end of the month, people get charged, and sometimes they, you know, their credit cards bounce and they don't ever come back and fix them, or they decide, oh, you know, this is the month that I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off, or I've got other things that need to be done, or they miss the email, or whatever. There's a lot of different reasons. So I'm never really able to fully expect what. It's hard for me to know exactly what to expect at the end of every month. I can basically kind of look at the overall. They give you a graph on Patreon, and I can kind of see the overall trends of up and down, and kind of make estimates based on that. But it's hard for me to be able to pin down what exactly you're going to be making. It's kind of one of the frustrating things about Patreon, and one of the things that makes it a little bit more difficult to do long-term planning, is because you can never tell whether you're going to drop, whether you're going to have a big drop or not. But in any case, the Patreon is up, so thanks. You know, that is awesome. And if you want to leave those pledges there, great. As I said before, if you want to switch everything back to the way that you had it before, that's fine. At the end of the day, the big thing is whatever you feel comfortable with. So that's cool. I would like to say that I'm very glad that Patreon has done this. The last thing, you know, even though it's going to cause a couple days worth of confusion and a few extra videos and et cetera, you know, that there's been a kind of a tumultuous thing. I'm glad that Patreon kind of came to their senses and hasn't continued to try to force this charge onto y'all, because that's, I didn't like it. I didn't like it in the last video. I don't like it now. You know, moving forward, it's not a thing. Like if it was an optional thing, I could maybe see if you were starting up a new Patreon and you wanted to do that. But for the people that have been supporting Rage Select for this huge amount of time, I just don't want y'all to have to shoulder an additional burden. It adds a layer of complexity that I'm not a fan of. I want it to be simple. You guys support us. We give you videos, and bada bing bang boom. That's the thing. So anyway, if you have any questions, just like the last video, mail at rageselect.com or reply to the Patreon email. I'm probably going to send out another specific email to the patrons that again, explaining this change and saying, you know, hey, you can switch it all back. And then before I go, I wanted to once again come out and say, everybody out there who's watching this, everybody who's a patron, everybody who's not a patron, this is amazing. When you do a thing long enough, I feel like it becomes normalized. But there are some days where I'm walking up to the studio to put in whatever the latest game is and sit down with one of my friends to record a video, a 30 to 40 minute video about whatever this new game is that came out. And some days it just hits me where I'm just like, holy shit. What I mean, like, I've been doing this for longer. They say that 90% of small businesses fail within the first year, and as I said before, we're at like 4.5 years, and we're coming up. I think June or July is kind of our anniversary date, and we'll be next year around that time. We'll be 5 years, 5 whole years of Rage Select, 5 years of we've had co-hosts from Jason Murphy all the way to who's the latest, Kyle or Chris Cox, right? Everybody in between. We've had a bunch of live events. We've had sequentials out the yazoo. We've been able to do so many cool things, and it's been really interesting because I get to I've gotten to watch this whole thing progress over the years. I'm going to be 40 next year. So I started this website when I was 36, and then back in the old days at Spill, I was maybe a year or two before even that. So I've been doing this for a while now, and it's all thanks to y'all. It's all absolutely thanks to the people who watch these videos, who comment, who like, who share it out to their friends, who are patrons and whatnot. And when Rage Select first started, I feel like we had a slightly bigger audience, and that the audience has gotten a little bit smaller. Again, like I said in the last video, it's still usually around 1,000 people for our part 1 video. So the consistently, on an average, maybe it's a little bit less, but even so, I like that number a lot. I feel like when we first started out that we had a lot of people, but now it just feels like we have just a lovely kind of core group of people that I'd love to have a beer with any of you, or lobster thermidor and champagne. I'd be willing to have a lovely dinner and drinks with any one of you all. You're all great, and you've all literally made. It's kind of hard. This is the epitome of a first world problem. It's like all I ever really wanted to do was get paid to play video games, and I've been doing that for years now. And I'm like, well, damn, what now? Jedi powers, jetpack, like punch a shark. I don't know. What dreams should I have now? So yeah. So thanks to everybody. I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all that went to the trouble to alter your Patreon. Again, let me just say, if you don't want to switch it back, if you want to just leave it as is, there's no real difference between now and even in the past. There was no real difference between one $20 pledge with a $20 cap as opposed to $21 pledges, with a $20 cap. Those two things were always pretty much the same. It's kind of a $20 equals $20 scenario. So I realize that I've made y'all do that y'all have done a lot of work, and I'm sorry that happened, and I'm sorry that it's been rolled back. But the upside is that if you want to leave it that way, if you don't want to go back and mess with it, you can totally do that. If you do want to go back and mess with it, great. If you want to delete entirely, this is also fine. It's all, whatever makes you comfy, whatever floats your boat, whatever tickles your fancy. Mail@rageselect.com for questions. Rageselect@gmail.com is usually the email address that I send out the Patreon emails from. If you've got a Patreon email and you want to just reply to that, if you have a question, cool beans. And then I've put some more Hitman in the background here, mostly as an excuse to play Hitman. I hope that y'all have enjoyed. I hope that that's made at least listening to me talk a slightly more interesting. But so thank you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for being awesome. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, just have a great day. I want you to, oh, but man, this day better be the best. I am going to hold this day accountable. If you have a bad, you don't deserve to have a bad day. You deserve to have a good day because you're a fan of Rage Select. And you should be getting everything that you want from life, including lobster thermidor and a champagne. So thank you for listening. I'm going to keep an eye on these comments. If you have any generalized questions that I can answer or whatnot, let me know. Thank you to everybody who said very nice things in the last video. As I said, I'm just going to make that one private. I'm going to delete the Facebook post and the tweet, and we'll all get to go on with our lives. So have a great day. Bye.